Welcome back. Today we gonna talk about architecture of the United Arab Emirates. The architecture of the United Arab Emirates has undergone dramatic transformation in recent decades, from operating as a collection of fishing villages to a global business hub known for its innovation and dynamism. Between the 1960s and 1970s, architecture in the United Arab Emirates remained solely traditional, with narrow alleys and wind tower houses still in use, reflective of a strong Bedouin heritage. Architecture is influenced by elements of Islamic, Arabian and Persian culture. In the early 1980s, Sheikh Rashid, the then ruler of the United Arab Emirates, employed British architect John Harris to create the stylish modernist architecture for which the major cities of the UAE are known today. The introduction of exposed glass curtain walls represented the beginning of a movement used extensively in the design of almost every commercial and high-rise building facade in the Persian Gulf. In less commercial areas, Emirati architecture continues to heavily reflect the custom and traditional lifestyles of the native people. Building materials are simple, in contrast with the refined images of Dubai and Abu Dhabi today. Traditional influences. Traditional architecture in the United Arab Emirates was heavily influenced by the desert landscape, culture, lifestyle and available building materials. The Bedouin, a nomadic Arabic tribe who traditionally live in the desert, were well known for using palm frond shelters, known as arish in the summer months. Frames for arish houses were often made with mangrove poles, imported from East Africa. In colder months, a move towards using animal skin shelters would be made. The Bedouin tent was a useful and adaptable structure often made of sheep wool, camel's hair or goat hair by the women of the tribe. Such structures were called Beit al-Shar, meaning house of hair. Other materials such as a mixture of seashells and limestone were used as building resources in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The nomadic nature of the Bedouin tribe demanded the need for light disposable materials that could be found along coastal lines. In contrast, permanent houses inland were constructed with a mud mixture formed into blocks, strengthened using stones bonded together with a mixture of red clay and manure. The geographical context of the tribe or group determined the type of materials that were used in the construction of buildings, meaning that most structures were comprised of materials drawn from the surrounding environment. These ranged from coral, mud and stone through to palm fronds and animal hair. The harsh climate of the United Arab Emirates created a need for ventilation due to high temperature periods of the year. This resulted in the introduction of Iranian wind towers, known as bargeels. These vertical shafts allow for a downward flow of cool air and a distribution of water to become available at the bottom of the structure, allowing for the inside temperature of the building to be cooled. Ancient architecture in the United Arab Emirates. While human settlement in the United Arab Emirates can be traced back to the Stone Age, 6000 to 3200 BC, it was not until the Bronze Age, 3200 to 1300 BC, that larger establishments began to form. Such settlements were developed in inland oases and coastal areas, populated by farmers, animal herders and fishermen. The first recorded large settlement was the town of Al Ain, through which inhabitants would export agricultural products through the port of El Nar, located off Abu Dhabi Island. This was a permanent establishment made up of well-constructed buildings built from cut and dressed stone, complete with circular tower-like tombs. Evidence from these sites indicates a strong trade evolving from pottery production and the export of copper, particularly between these settlements and surrounding civilizations such as Mesopotamia. A water irrigation system known as Kanat emerged in the Iron Age, 1300 to 300 BC. This system provided a relatively constant water supply all year round by taking advantage of underground water supplies, leading to a change in settlement patterns as groups would follow the route of the water source. Up until the mid-20th century, marking the beginning of Western attention to the area. Most building fell into 5 categories: religious, residential, markets, public and defensive buildings. Buildings that were constructed up until then remained within traditional styles. Unlike other styles of Islamic and Persian architecture, there is little ornamentation found in traditional architecture of the UAE. Only a small number of mosques offer any form of ornamentation, reflecting the lack of resources at hand and general reliance on simple but effective structures. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you want more, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video.